Right. Again, welcome everybody. My name is Benjamin Solitaire. I'm the Community Board Advisor for the Civic Engagement Commission. Thank you for spending this afternoon with us. The next hour and a half will be fascinating, I'm sure. We have a presentation from the Department of Buildings on all that they do and how they affect your districts and the residents that you serve. So welcome again. I'll introduce Jennifer McGee, who'll kick it off for us in a minute. Just as always, just like to mention the programs we run at the CEC. Other than these community board trainings, we do have, of course, our citywide participatory budgeting process, the People's Money, which we spent about 8 weeks last fall collecting ideas from residents around the city on how to spend part of the city budget on services and programs in their communities. We are evaluating those right now. We have 5 borough committees of about 20 people each that applied and were randomly selected to help evaluate that, to decide which ones of those projects end up on a ballot to be voted on by anybody who lives in New York City this spring. You only have to be 11 years old or up and live in New York City to be able to vote to decide how to spend part of the city budget. We also do poll site language assistance. So during primaries and general elections, we have interpretation services in needed languages that the Board of Elections does not cover at poll sites around the city. And we do language access trainings, which we'll do on here in February, but we provide language access assistance as we can across the city as well. So, and just general civic engagement outreach, trying to help people learn about their communities and how to get involved. So check us out. We have a NYC CEC. If you Google that, we'll get our government page and our People's Money page. I'll put those links in a little later. But let's get underway with the reason you're here today. Jennifer McGee is going to kick it off. I will share my screen because I told her I would, and then we can see her presentation. And we can take it away, Jennifer. Oh, can't hear you. I heard you before.
Hello?
Are you there now?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Maybe my fault.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no, I think it's my microphone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to discuss the inner workings of Department of Buildings. The first thing I would like to let you know that I'm one of the community engagement liaisons under the supervision of Director Ophelia Phipps, who is the director of the Office of Community Engagement and Programming. Today on this Zoom, I'll be speaking to you, just giving you a brief overview of the Department of Buildings, and then I'll hand it over to Jody Kaplan, who's the Chief Customer Service Officer of DOB's Customer Service Department. And after that, it will be Shamanda Graham, who's the Executive Director of our Administrative Enforcement Unit. So in this presentation, we'll just provide you a brief overview of the DOB, in which we'll discuss the Community Engagement Unit and the significance of 301 complaints. I'll give you a brief synopsis of the DOB Office of Tenant Advocate, or OTA, talk about zoning challenges, after-hour variances, and our small business team, and finally, the BIS system, the Building Information Systems. Again, Jody Kaplan, she will speak in detail about DOB Now, and last but not least, Shamanda Graham. And after which we can open up the floor for Q&A. And while the presentation is going on, please feel free to include any questions you have in the chat, and we can answer that after the presentation is over. Okay, that being said, I'll just go straight into the presentation. The agenda, again, agency introductions, we did that. We're going to talk about the Community Engagement Unit, 301 complaints, OTA, zoning challenges, after-hour variances, our small business team, the Building Information System, DOB Now, and AEU. So who we are a group a team of professionals dedicated to the safety of all who build, work, and live in NYC. And we're committed to providing efficient service, streamlined, understandable, transparent, and consistent. So the overarching, next slide, please. I'm sorry. The what we do is we provide safe and lawful use of over 1 million buildings and construction sites throughout the city. And we enforce the NYC Building Code and zoning resolution to facilitate safe and responsible development, in addition to conducting emergency response and hold construction professionals accountable. Next slide, please. So our commissioner is James Auto, and which he is in charge of the following departments. That would be the Legal and Regulatory Affairs, Office of General Counsel, the Enforcement Unit, the Administration and Finance Unit, Development and Technical Affairs, Strategic Policy and Planning, External Affairs, which is the Community Engagement Unit, is under that facet, and finally, Communications and Marketing. So the Department of Buildings regulates the safe and lawful use of nearly 1.1 million buildings and over 45,000 active construction sites across the 5 boroughs. And that consists of the technical staff, which are the architects, engineers, and plan examiners, in addition to the administrative staff, which facilitate the department's operations, and our inspectors, which respond to the complaints to ensure building safety. And we have the 4 different types of complaints, which is the A complaints, and then the B, C, and D complaints. A complaints are mainly complaints that are immediately hazardous, which include construction or construction-related accidents, fumes, building vibration, shaking, among other things. Priority B complaints include the illegal conversion of residential building space, excessive debris, failure to erect a sidewalk shed, construction contrary to approved plans. Priority C would be violations that DOB considers non-hazardous, i.e. building without a certificate of occupancy. Priority D involve quality of life problems, for example, illegal curb cuts. You can go to the next slide, please. And we are going to talk about the complaints. Complaints are where we get the majority of our inquiries, and that involves the community engagement unit. Sometimes we get complaints through the elected officials, and it's very important to utilize 311 when we get those complaint numbers. I know that 311 can be a penance, but it's the way that city staff resources are allocated, and it serves as documentation. By submitting 311 complaint numbers, it allows the inquiry to be amplified and reinforced. So if you do have 311 inquiries, please be sure to include them in your emails. Our inspectors enforce the building code and ensure the construction industry is protecting the property, the public and property in the progress of work, and that all work is being done in a code compliant manner. And failure to operate within those guidelines set by the code and zoning resolution could result in violations, monetary penalties, and criminal charges. The New York City Construction Code requires owners to build and maintain their properties in a safe and code compliant manner. DOB inspectors issue oath and DOB violations when property or construction does not comply with the 311 construction codes, the zoning resolution, or other applicable laws and rules. Next slide, please. So we all know how we can file 311 complaints, but I just wanted to list it here again by either calling 311 or going online with 311. And after you file the 311 complaint, you'll be given a service request number, and that service request number is what we see on our end when we get the emails from the community and elected officials. Through those 311 complaints, again, it helps amplify the request and reinforce the request. So it's very important to have a 311 complaint number when submitting a request for inquiry. Next slide, please. So I wanted to just talk really quickly about our Office of the Tenant Advocate. It was established by local law 161 in 2017 to serve as a resource to tenants who are affected by work in occupied buildings. So if your building is undergoing construction, you can also speak with the OTA about questions and comments and complaints concerning the work being done in your building. You can go to the next slide. The Office of Tenant Advocate reviews and approves the tenant protection plans on multiple dwellings, in addition to, again, as I mentioned before, construction harassment or gas or elevator being out of service. Your landlord is required to maintain gas connections and keep your elevator in working order. And if they have been shut off, there may be a dangerous condition that the owner needs to correct. So next slide, please. So if you have those issues, you can contact us and we will put you in contact with someone from the Office of Tenant Advocate. Or you can either also email them directly or contact them. So now we're going to go over to talk about zoning challenges. A lot of times we do receive requests to challenge construction in your neighborhood. And these architects and engineers are required to submit 3D representations of new buildings and enlargements that indicate the size and scale of the construction project. These diagrams are available through either Building on My Block, in Biz, or in DOB Now as well. And these zoning diagrams usually just give you a visual depiction of the major construction project going on in your neighborhood. So there is a database that, again, I mentioned that you can search in Biz and in DOB Now. And that database provides all the information on new buildings, major alterations, and full demolition applications filed with the department. So at the conclusion of the 45 days, the public has 45 days to submit a zoning challenge. And at the end of the 45 days, the Borough Commissioner reviews the public challenge and will issue decisions. I'm sorry, you can go to the next slide. And all of the decisions will be posted online. If a challenge is determined to be valid, appropriate enforcement action will be taken. But if the initial challenge is denied by the Borough Commissioner, the public will be given an additional 15 days to appeal the decision by filing a new zoning challenge and appeal form. You can find zoning approvals on the BIZ system and look on Building on My Block, or in DOB Now, Building on My Block. And if you wanted to submit a zoning approval challenge, there's a form on the website in which you can do that for the public. Next slide, please. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is after-hour variances, or AHVs. Next slide. So after hour variances, what is an AHV? It's required if a contractor is seeking to perform construction activity before 7 a.m. or after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday or on a Saturday or Sunday. Next slide. And authorization for after hours construction work are based on the following justification reasons: emergency work, which would be work for emergency conditions inside or outside the property line, which may involve a threat to public safety, and it might cause imminent interruption of service. So sometimes they request an AHV to do that type of work after hours or on weekends, just not to disturb the public. Public safety, where the agency determines that the work cannot reasonably or practically be performed on weekdays between the hours of 7 and 6 p.m. because of traffic congestion or concern for worker or public safety. Then you have city construction projects. The agency may authorize after-hour work by or on behalf of another city agency for projects that are judicially mandated or the subject or consent orders, or where project is necessary in the public interest, including but not limited to facilities, equipment, and infrastructure for the provision of water, sewage, sanitation, transportation, and other services necessary for the health or safety of the public. Then you have construction activities with minimum noise impact. And lastly, undue hardship. So those are the reasons for the after-hour variances. Next slide, please. So there is a real-time interactive after-hour variance map that you can locate. There's a link for it that I could send in the chat after this presentation, and it shows real-time. It's an interactive map, and it shows you all of the locations where DOB has issued permits allowing construction work to proceed outside of normal business hours. And again, after-hour variances for biz jobs are submitted online through the e-filing system, and then their after-hour applications for DOB Now jobs are submitted directly into DOB Now. Next slide, please. And finally, we will talk about the small business team. The small business team, DOP small business team, next slide, please, is a team that provides small business owners and entrepreneurs the dedicated DOB support that they need. You'll have a single point of contact at DOB that allows you to have one-on-one guidance so your planned or ongoing construction projects can move to completion. Whether it's opening a new place of business or renovating an existing one, the small business team gives the city's small businesses, owners, and entrepreneurs the dedicated support they need. You can contact the small business team through the small business help form, which I can also give the link. Or
1 second, sorry, I messed up.
It's okay.
Sharing. There we go.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes, you can contact the small business team utilizing the small business help form to get your project to completion and your business up and running faster. So you could also meet the small business team every second Tuesday of every month from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at our 280 Broadway office, the building after hours, if you want to discuss a upcoming project. Because there you can get one-on-one guidance, proactive consultations, and interagency assistance. So definitely the small business team is a great resource. And finally, we are going to go into talking about the Building Information System, or BIS. The DOB still utilizes BIS for various functions. You can go to the next slide. It's a platform that enables you to see the latest developments at construction sites in your neighborhood around New York City, and all department records are available online through the Building Information System. You can find a variety of information on any property within New York City, including complaints, violations, applications, and permit information. Through the Building Information System mainframe, you can also submit job filings directly to a DOB borough office. We do utilize both systems, DOB Now and BIS, and you do not need sign up access to access information in BIS. There's also a link that I could provide that you can utilize BIS. After the presentation is over, I'll send all of those links. With that being said, I will defer to Jody Kaplan, who will be speaking to you about DOB Now.
Hi. I was just answering a question in the chat.
Want me to let you share your screen, Jody?
Yep, I'm going to do that. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, answered my question. It's multitasking. Sorry about that. Share my screen.
I got it, Jody. I took care of it, Ophelia.
Okay, super. All right. All right, so I'm going to go through DOB Now, which is the portal that most new applications are being filed in, and will become the system for everything that you do at the Department of Buildings at some point, replacing the Buildings Information System, BIS, which you are probably more, if you have done any searching at the Department of Buildings, that's the site you have probably been using. But I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the application process so that you understand the terms a little bit more, and have a good background for understanding what you could then search for. So some of this, if you've done any work at the in New York City and have already gone through the application process, this might seem a little elementary to you, but hopefully useful for those who need a good foundation. So I am, as I mentioned, going to start at the very beginning, because there are terms that we use in DOB Now that are a little bit different than what had been used in BIS, and it's also just a good way to have that footing about what we're going to discuss in the system. So you want to do work in New York City. How does that happen? You need a permit from the Department of Buildings, and before a permit can be obtained, you need plans, and those plans are filed on behalf of the owner by either a licensed professional engineer or a registered architect, and we refer to those often as a registered design professional, an RDP. And they submit those plans, which are then reviewed by the Department of Buildings by a plan examiner who's determining compliance with construction codes and zoning, and for the purpose of ensuring safety and that the proposed use and occupancy is permissible. That's one path that plans can take. Another path is something we call ProCert. This is professional certification, when the RDP submits the plans, but they certify them themselves, that the proposed work complies with the laws, codes, and regulations. And then the department can conduct audits of those ProCert applications. So you either have your plans reviewed by a department plan examiner, or the RDP is the one that is certifying them. Some larger scopes of work also have the requirement for a site safety plan, and those are reviewed by the department as well. And then there are some kinds of work that do not require plans. And these are electrical applications, which are submitted by an electrician. and they get the permit right away when they submit them. It's an application, it's not submitting plans. And something we call limited alteration applications, LAA, that's for minor plumbing work that's filed by a plumber, a fire suppression contractor, or a fuel burner installer. And those don't have plans, they're just permits that are issued by the department. And as soon as it's submitted by the electrician or the plumber, those permits are issued right away. There's no review by the Department of Buildings. So that's what you need to get to, is that you need a permit. So once the plans are approved, if they were required, then the contractor is the one that requests a permit. And this is the quickest part of the application, because permits are go through a quality assurance review that takes 2 or less business days. So it's just 1 or 2 business days to get that permit. The electrical and LAA permits, as I mentioned, are issued at the time that they're submitted. And then just this reminder, something to keep in mind, that construction work requiring a permit must be performed with a permit. Failure to obtain a permit will result in the issuance of a work without a permit violation and a stop work order, which require resolution and carry significant financial penalties. Violations for work without a permit are issued to the property owner. And once the work is completed, the contractor then needs to request an inspection that's done by our development inspection unit at the Department of Buildings, and they use our system that's called DOB Now inspections to request that inspection. But there is some work that doesn't require a DOB inspection, where the inspection is instead done by the RDP. And then once the inspection has passed, the permit is signed off. And then we want to get every job to the finish line. And in order to do that, you either need a letter of completion or an amended certificate of occupancy, or a new certificate of occupancy if it's the first time, if it's a new building or something like that. So the owner or the RDP can request that letter of completion, and the certificate of occupancy process requires another request and another review, but that is the goal, to then get the certificate of occupancy. And then another stakeholder that is in some of these projects is something called a special inspector, because there are other inspections that need to be performed by a third party who does some of that inspection work. So that gives us the foundation we need to jump into DOB Now. DOB Now has 4 different modules. Build is mostly what I'm going to jump into here. That's when you're doing the actual work, you're getting the files, doing the job filings, the plans, the permits, all of that happens in the build system. The inspection system is where you request those inspections. Anybody can search for information in the inspection system. You don't have to be a registered user. All of the information about when an inspection is happening on a property, all that good stuff, and the status of that is in the inspection system. We also have a licensing system for applying and renewing licenses for our licensees. And then there's the safety part of DOB Now, and that's for compliance filings. That's if you have compliance filings that need to happen on facades, boilers, elevators. These are all submitted by the licensed professional in the safety system. And that's also where violations for those things need to be dealt with, which I will get to in a moment as well. So DOB Now, the short link for that is nyc.gov/DOB Now. The ability to log in here is for anybody who wants to see information in the DOB Now system. There's a lot you can search for that does not require you to log in, but to log in, owners need to log in and do some transactions on filings. So anybody can get an e-filing account. It gives you instructions here how to sign up for one, that I'll talk through in a moment, and log into the system. And then a lot of what I'm talking about right now, if you're looking for additional information, if you go to under DOB Now Build, there's a resources link on this page that has links to a lot of good guides and information about how to use the system. So as I mentioned, in order to log in, you need an e-filing account. So you go to our e-filing website and you go to the registration form, you put in if you're an owner that you don't have a license, and it's right away once you get an email confirmation, you click on that, confirm it, and then you have your account and you're able to log in. So it is a separate system right now where you create your e-filing account to be able to log in. And then once you have that, use that email address and password to go back to the DOB Now system and actually log in. This short link here, e-filing tips as well, can guide you through if you had questions about that. So when you are an owner or somebody who needs to be the stakeholder on a filing, you give that email address to the architect or the engineer or whoever, or the electrician or the plumber or whoever is filing the application, and that associates the owner to the filing so that you could then take some action on it if you need to, if that's your role, or if you just want to see the progress of that application. So when they're creating these filings when the engineer or architect is creating the filings in DOB Now, they are first selecting the job type. So we have new buildings, we have alteration CO. This is an alteration where there are existing elements to remain, but more similar to a new building. A lot of work that is happening. An alteration CO means that you're doing enough work that it affects the occupancy and a new certificate of occupancy is required. Or you're just doing an alteration which does not affect the occupancy, does not require a certificate of occupancy, but will allow you to get a letter of completion. There's also full demolition, and then limited alteration, which I mentioned, which was minor plumbing work. And then we have something that's called a no work application, and that's for place of assembly and temporary place of assembly. Those are the different job types that we have in DOB Now. And then when you get a job number, there are different parts to that job number. There's an extension at the end that gives you some information about where that job is in the process or what it is doing, what kind of filing that is, the filing type. So if it says it's an I1, it's an initial, that means it's the first job on that project. And then if it has an S1, a subsequent, and it can go all the way down the alphabet, so it has many subsequents that are needed, but it's work that's on the same project, but it's different scope of work. So another architect or engineer could go in and create a subsequent filing to that I1 with additional scope of work and be the applicant on that filing. And then if any of these filings are approved, but then there's changes that need to be made to them, the architect or the engineer submits a post-approval amendment, which is a PAA, and that gives the extension as a P1, goes all the way through P9. There can be as many PAs that are as are needed. And then the last part that they're selecting, so they had the job type, and then they had the filing type, and now it's the work type, and that is what kind of work is happening as part of this project. So if they're doing plumbing, if they're putting up a sidewalk shed, if they're doing some structural work, this is the work type that is selected, and that's included as part of the description of the job. So when there is a job number, and you can see this on the permit, if you see permits printed somewhere, there's always a job number on there. If it begins with a letter, that means that you are going to DOB Now to look up information about that filing. If it begins with begins with a letter, it's a DOB Now job. If it begins with a number, it's a BIS job. And the letter is for the borough. So Manhattan jobs are M, Brooklyn is B, X is Bronx. And then 8 digits. And then that extension that I was talking about, it's either an initial filing, a subsequent filing, or an amendment. And then the work type, which is which kind of work they're doing, which was that slide I showed before. All right, so that's what a job number looks like. There are, as I mentioned, different stakeholders in the filing that we went over a bit. The applicant is always an architect or an engineer, or in some cases, it can be a plumber or an electrician. The inspectors is a role that plays in some properties, some jobs that require specialized work and require special inspectors. The owner is always a stakeholder in the filing as well. A filing representative or an expediter is somebody who can play a role in that application and can do some of the data entry and helping to get the application filed and anything that happens along the way. And then site safety if it's a big project. So the role that the owner plays in the actual filing is that they have to go into the system and complete the statements and signatures section. And we do have a quick guide for that. So if that's something that you need to guide somebody on or you need assistance with, we do provide a guide. And so you log in, find the job filing, and then fill out that section. In that guide, we also provide information about the different parts of the owner's attestation is what we call it. So when an owner goes in, they are attesting to certain things on the filing. One of them is if there are occupied dwelling units during construction, and this is what triggers the need for a tenant protection plan. So if you're looking on a filing and you see the statements and signature section and the owner has indicated that there are occupied dwellings, that's when a tenant protection plan is required. There's also questions about whether it's rent controlled or rent stabilized, if it's loft, if there's interior work, and there is a local law that requires revealing any of the arrears that are owed by the owner. So this information is all explained in that owner's guide, if that's information you're looking for. A question that I often get asked is, where is this job in the process? And that is information we try to be very transparent about. So when you are logged in and you search for a job, which you can do, or if you're just searching through the public portal and you pull up a job, you can see a status bar that has some definition of what those statuses mean. So just doing a quick overview of this, pre-filing means that nothing has been submitted to the Department of Buildings yet. So if you ever see something that's in pre-filing status, that means that Department of Buildings doesn't have it. Nothing has happened except that an application has been started by an applicant who has yet to finish it. So then it goes through a review. If there's ever a red exclamation point, it means it's an objection status and that the applicant needs to resubmit it in order for the department to review it again. So if you ever see objections, that's something that is waiting for the applicant to take action, not the Department of Buildings. And then it gets approved, the permits get issued, and then hopefully if it requires the CO gets issued. And then it's a little bit different for professionally certified filings because it doesn't go through the plan examiner review. It goes through what we call a quality assurance review, QA review, and these are the different statuses. And there is a resource on that resources page that I pointed out that you can link to from the DOB Now landing page that shows all of the statuses of all of that any possibility. So if you're trying to figure out where that job is in the process, I suggest that resource. Sometimes the owner needs to change on a filing. So if some transaction has happened with a property and there's a filing and then there needs to be a new owner, that is something that we update in the system through a supersede request. And I also provide a link here to the supersede and withdrawal guide because that has different ways of doing it depending on the stakeholder who is changing, but there is functionality in the system to be able to change the stakeholder. There's also, on that resources page, a user guide that has details about all of the different tabs that are on a filing. So when you go into when you log into DOB Now and you pull up a job application, there's going to be lots of information in here. And there is a user guide. It's technical. It's more geared towards an architect and an engineer. But if you really wanted to dig into the specifics of a job filing, that's the place to go. So the tenant protection plan is another piece that requires the owner to apply their signature. So once the owner indicates that there are occupied dwellings, then there needs to be a tenant protection plan. And the architect or engineer needs to go in and submit that TPP, and the owner needs to also log in and attest needs to apply their statement of signature. So they log in, they check the box here, they save the filing, but that indicates that they have given their attestation to the TPP. And there's a lot of FAQs on our website about the TPP process. If you have additional questions about how that gets approved or submitted, or how you print it, how you view it, all of those good things are in the FAQs. And then you get your permit. As I mentioned, the contractor is the one that submits it. It's very quick. It goes under quality assurance review that takes 2 or less business days. And all the information about the permit is in DOB Now when you search for the job filing. I can show you that in a moment. You can also print out the permit if you want to see what it actually looks like, and any information about that, who the applicant is, all of that good stuff. The system I mentioned as well. So, we had the plans, we got the permit, the work is done. Now somebody needs to do the inspection. They request that inspection through our inspection system. This is the short link to it, and nyc.gov/inspections. As I mentioned, anybody can search in here. So it'll take you to this homepage, but then there's another tab here for search, and you can put in a job number. You can also search by address. You can search by a licensed professional if you know who the contractor is. So you can go in here and see the status of when the inspection was requested, what the status of it was, if there were any corrections that needed to be made, if the inspector found anything that needed to be adjusted on the filing before they could, on the work before they could sign off the inspection. And all of those details are in the inspection system, and that's where you can go to see that. And then, as I mentioned, we want filings to get to that finish line, which is the letter of completion. And that is something that is requested by the owner or the applicant, or so that's the engineer or the architect. They go into DOB Now, they request the LOC, and that will issue the LOC, the letter of completion. If the permit is signed off and they have put in all of the cost details and everything is complete on the filing. So I do want to go in and just show you a couple of things that you can do in the DOB Now portal. So I'm going here. Oh, here we go. Going here to the DOB Now homepage. And as I mentioned, many of the things that I was showing you was what happens when you log in. So when you log into the system, it will take you to a job filings dashboard. And there is a search capability in here as well that will allow you to search by a job number, or you could search by the BIN, which is the building identification number that every property has. So these are 2 ways that you could go in and you could really see the details of an application, just like the architect and engineer are seeing it. Or if you're the owner on a filing and you need to take action, this is where you would do it. You would log in and see it from here. But without logging in, there's a lot you can do as well. So I'm just going to pull up an address here. This is the address of Will and Grace. This is where Will lived. Let's see how his building's doing. All right, so I went in and I searched by an address. There are some tabs up here where you can see the building schedule of occupancy, which lists all of the floors for this building, and this is what is used to then issue the certificate of occupancy. So as part of the getting a certificate of occupancy for a project, they first need to give us the schedule of occupancy, which lists all of the floors and the details and the about how that floor can be used. And then once that's approved, they then do a certificate of occupancy request to then get the certificate of occupancy. And from here, you could print the actual certificate of occupancy and see what it looks like. So this is the certificate of occupancy. It gives all the details, gives each floor their use, all of that good stuff is in here. And then other things that you can pull up from this screen is their certificate of compliance. This one doesn't have one, but that's if you're doing mechanical work the certificate of compliance is any of the mechanical systems that are in the building will be listed here as part of its certificate of compliance. This is where you can see any active tenant protection plans that are on a property. So if there is work being done and it requires a tenant protection plan and you want details about that tenant protection plan, you can see that here. After hour variances, oh, there's none for this bin, but if there are any AHVs on the bin, that map that Jennifer referred to is very, very useful. If you want to see more details about the AHV for each property, you can come here and it will show all of the active AHVs on the property. Energy submission is if there are any energy review happening on different applications, probably not as useful for your needs. And then notifications are listed here as well. When you're doing work that requires a tenant protection plan, you are also required to notify the department at least 72 hours, within 72 hours of when that work is starting, to let the department know that the work is about to begin. So you've gotten your TPP, but now you have to let us know that you're actually going to start the work. So that's a notification you could see in here. When you're taking down a sidewalk shed, you do a notification. There's some instances where a notification to the Department of Buildings is required, and you can see that all that information here in the property profile. Also, you can see any of the job filings. So it tells you the work type. This is an electrical filing. There's some plumbing filings. There's some general construction work. There's some sidewalk sheds. And when you pull up any of these, I'm just going to pull up GC. Any of these filings, you can see all of the information. You can see this information when you're logged in, or you cannot be logged in. You can see it all here. You can see who the applicant is. You can also, oh, I meant to show the permit, sorry. You can also see the work permit. There is no work permit on this yet, but, because it was a PAA, sorry. You pull up the permit. Oops. So you can see the permit here. You could print the work permit if you wanted to see what it looked like. You can see the occupant notice. That's what's required once there's a TPP that needs to be posted at the building. That's where you can see that in here as well. And then the other thing that you can see is any of the compliance filings that are required, which I'm going to show you in a moment. But if there are boilers or elevators or facades, parking structures, that's the newer compliance filing that's required, or building emission, this is the energy grade. All of that information is here as well for this property. And you can also see the energy rating right here for the building. So those signs you see with the letter grade, the information is also here just on the property profile. So let's go back to the presentation a second. Here we are. Okay, so
I have a question. Is it all right if I ask my question since you mentioned sidewalk sheds?
sure, go ahead.
Someone did put a question in the chat related to that, but I'm just curious to know the sidewalk sheds that are currently on the sidewalks. Are they required to be permitted? To have a permit to date?
Yes, absolutely.
And what happens if they do not?
Then you should call 311 and report it, because that would be considered a work without permit. Once they put up a sidewalk shed, they need to have a permit for it.
So what is the takedown date if they choose not to actually maintain that shed? Because I know during COVID, the city allowed businesses to have sidewalk sheds just to mitigate, the spread of COVID. And now the city is saying, hey, now you need to have a permit for it. So I'm just curious to know what the parameters are in terms of taking this shed down. Are they still responsible for it? And, things in that nature.
All permit sheds, regardless of the circumstances for why they were put up, require a permit. And if it doesn't have a permit, that's something you should report to 311 so that we can investigate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So The other part of DOB Now that it's topical that you mentioned COVID. So during COVID, we had to come up with a process quickly to not have people walk in. And so we needed to, there are still some transactions that were on paper that required a person to walk in the door and give us something. And we wanted to make it so that that didn't have to happen and we could continue our business processes. So we created this third part of DOB Now called Biz Options. And the things that you can do in there are certificate of correction, which Shamanda is going to cover after I do this presentation. So I won't go into that here. Sometimes if there's a civil penalty on a property, that needs to be paid or maybe reviewed as not applying to the property before the permit is issued for new work on that job. And those requests are done in the system. And then there's also records requests, which if you are looking for plans or information about a building in your city, you can make that request of the Department of Buildings and then come to our offices and pick up the records that we have. And that is done in the Biz Option system as well. If that's something that interests you, if you go to our website, nyc.gov/buildings, and just search the word record requests, it will give you a good walkthrough of how to make that request. But we do have that information available. And as I mentioned, the safety system, and that's where you would log in if you needed to pay something. That's where it would happen but if you wanted to see what the violation was or what payment is due, you can do that from the public portal, which I just showed without logging in. And it shows the violations for boilers, elevators, energy, not posting your energy grade, anything having to do with facades, local law 11, and parking structures. These are all of the compliance filings that have violations. So these are the ones that are required that a building do every year, or whatever the cycle is for these things that are in a building. So like certain boilers are required to be inspected every year. And that inspection report has to be submitted to the Department of Buildings. And if that report isn't submitted, then a violation is issued. These are the types of filings that we call compliance filings, and these are the ones that are in DOB Now. So if you're still looking for violations having to do with work without permit, a complaint was made and then we issued a violation, those sorts of things are still in the BIZ system, but ones having to do with the compliance are in DOB Now. And so as I mentioned, you would log in and you would pay them through this system. So I give some details about that as well here. All right, I made it through. So if there were any more questions specific to this part of the process, I'm happy to answer them. Mark, go ahead.
I'm a member of Community Board 13. I'm not official, I'm just speaking for me. We have a number of businesses.
Oops, looks like
I tried to lower my hand. A lot of supermarkets, etc., who are unsatisfied with their building's footprint and simply build out. I'm not talking about a shed. I mean, they put up walls, concrete, windows. You just make the building bigger, taking away sidewalk. There was at least one on my block that did this. I filed the appropriate complaint. Comes back from the buildings department and says, we were denied access 3 times, even after the store was open. So it's not, you could just walk in. And the buildings department says, done, closed. I filed it again, same thing. They were just denied the access and off it goes. So, I mean, I guess people know the answer is you just don't let the buildings department in and these violations go away. There's nothing, when I check the particular building, there's nothing listed as a violation. I have the 311 complaint, but that seems to be people who know, you just don't let them in and you're done. So I don't know if that's just me getting mad at things or there's some future solution to this problem. Thank you.
I don't think I'm the person that's going to be able to give you the great answer on that. I'm more of the person who can walk you through how to find the information that you need. But Ophelia, are you on? Are you able to give some response to that, or we're going to get back to you? Mark, we will take your question and we will get back to you. Sorry that I'm not the person to give you the best answer on that one.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jody. I thought I unmuted.
Oh,
My
no, go ahead,
apologies.
Ophelia. There you
Mark,
are.
if you could ask the question again, please.
okay. The question was, this has happened I'm in Southern Brooklyn, CB 13. A number of supermarkets and other businesses being unsatisfied with their footprint of their building simply build out, taking away sidewalks. And I'm not talking like, it's not a restaurant, so we're not talking about COVID sheds or anything else besides that's DOT nowadays, for now. I filed 311 complaints to Buildings Department, and after 3 attempts, the 311 is closed, says it's closed. They've denied access. I filed it again, same thing, three times. And you don't need a access. You just walk down the street and the sidewalk has gone from 10 foot to 1.5 feet. So it's doesn't need somebody to walk in to look for but they closed the complaint. So my Don Quixote railing is just saying, so the answer to any building violation is just to ignore them. Don't let them in. Keep moving forward. When I looked up that particular building on BIS, not the DOB Now, there were, other violations, sanitation violations, other things, but none of that, illegal construction or unpermitted construction or whatever it is. So I'm just disheartened that enforcement isn't what it should be. And that was basically the question. Thank you.
Ophelia, are you still there? Did you wanna?
Yeah, we can't hear you, Ophelia.
Yes, I don't know what's going on here. Okay, sorry about that again. What you could do for us, Mark, please send Frank and I a list of those locations, and we will do some research for the activities for the inspection, and we'll get with the lead for enforcement, and we'll send someone out so that they can give us a report, take some pictures, and to see exactly what's going on there. Why is it being closed out? When it's obviously accessible by just walking up to the curb. So some things need a little bit closer look, and it seems like these are some of the cases that we would do that. All right.
Okay, if Benjamin
I'll put my email in the chat.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if he can just email me the where to send the information, I'd be happy to. I can give him the 311's complaints that were issued, and then you can see what happened on those. Be happy to forward that to you. Anyway, there seems to be other people with their hand up, so I'm going to stop taking up everybody's time.
All right, it's in the
No
chat.
problem.
All right, thank you so much, Mark, for that question.
Thank you.
If they're quick, I'm gonna take the next 2 questions, but I guess we probably should go to the next one, but I'll try. Carl Henry, did you have something that you wanted to ask? Nope, he disappeared. Christine, did you have something?
Yes, thank you for all this information.
Sure.
We have a situation. There is a building which has, I'm from Community Board 4 in Manhattan, with a building which has had a lot of violation, and they have done a very good job of cleaning up everything. So the whole building now has no complaints, no variance, nothing. And however, when they go to the DOB, they cannot get their certificate of occupancy. And I want to know whether there is an escalation place or whatever. The problem is every time they ask, they meet with somebody different, and everybody finds something that they should be doing. And so, I mean, I'd like to understand why there is not a single point of contact and an escalation procedure.
Are you
Jody, you want me
saying
to
this
take
is
that one?
being is this being done by an architect or an engineer? Who's the person who is making the inquiries? Because there's like, you know, a set
Yeah,
application
the inquiry
process.
is done by an architect / expediter.
So the architect has a process to escalate if there's objections. It goes, you know, to the, first it starts with the plan examiner. If the plan examiner is saying something, there's a process for requesting a second review. If the second review, then they can request a determination. They can also escalate it to the borough commissioner. But if you want to, if there's a specific filing that you're trying to find more information about, if you want to put that information in the chat, I can follow up with you about it.
Okay, I'll do that.
So I just wanted to show my last slide here, which is a whole bunch of resources that I have available. The help page is something if you have a question about any of the transactions that are happening in DOB Now or Biz, you are welcome to submit an inquiry there, and our team will answer that. DOB Now training is a page that has a presentation on it that's specifically for owners. So if all of this information was useful to you or you wanted to find out more about it, there is an existing recording of a presentation on there that could be very helpful for you. A reminder, sign up for Buildings News. It's our e-newsletter sent out regularly, provides updates about all things happening at the Department of Buildings. And our DOB events page has the buildings after hours information, and also we do some Q&A sessions where you can come and ask a question of people at the Department of Buildings. We do those on Zoom, and they happen every week by borough. So if you want more information about signing up for one of those, go to that page. And that's going to do it for me. If you have questions that I didn't get to, please put them in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them there. But I think I'm going to turn it over now to Shamanda.
I don't see her as having joined yet. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, that's
is she
not...
here? Have I missed her? No, she's not in the list. Is anybody else able to do her section, or should we just continue answering questions until she shows up?
We could certainly do that. I'm happy to do that. So we could go to oh, Carl, Henry, you're back with your hand raised. If you wanted to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes. Hey, folks, I'm back because I was my own villain and I had not unmuted myself. So I apologize for that user error. So I'll be very brief. There's a thread that's already starting in the chat regarding the timeline of BIS and DOB Now. Jody already replied, so I just put a follow-up because I'm unclear if this means the DOB's plan is that there will be two systems forever. BIS is just historical, and then DOB Now will be certain business as of X date. So that's something I could use clarity on. And then my second question too is to piggyback off of Mark's question regarding enforcement. All the community boards were currently reviewing the City of BS for economic opportunity. And so I'm just curious, has there been any impact analysis from DOB regarding what those proposals would do for the current workforce? Because we're also operating under an administration that also wants to implement budget cuts. So those are my two questions. That's it.
So for the first one, I can answer. I'm going to turn to Ophelia if she maybe wants to answer that second one. I don't think I have the answer for that one. But so Biz has tons of information in it, right? Like we are going to definitely put into DOB Now all of the information that is active, that requires a current transaction on. There will be the porting of some of the data from Biz over when we build complaints and violations into DOB Now. That's, you know, the big part of what's still in the Biz system. They will be coming over. But I think the idea of actually shutting down Biz entirely is not something that will ever happen, because there is so much in that system that I don't think we would want to. I think there would be a bigger problem if we did that than if we only had DOB Now available. So I get your point as the confusion between the two systems. And we are going through, you know, the growing pains of transitioning to a new system and all of that, of what that entails. But the actuality of, you know, getting rid of Biz, I don't think it's going to happen entirely. Ophelia, did you want to take a stab at what Carl Henry's second question was? Oh, nope, Ophelia left us. We will get back to you,
Okay.
Carl, but I don't have an answer for that one, but
That's okay. Thank
we'll
you for
take it
answering
down.
the first question. I appreciate that clarity. Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
See that Michael Mopor has a hand up.
Yeah,
and,
go ahead, Michael.
Like Susan Stetzer next. Michael, are you still there? There you are. You're muted. Yes, there you go.
Hi, how are you? Thank you very much for this very educational Zoom.
Welcome.
Yes, so two questions. Number one, how can is there any way we can get a copy of this video? I mean, for informational purposes, to review it, you know, a lot of information about DOB Now.
We do, I have to check with DOB, but we do usually post them and share presentations, but I need to check. DOB, what do you think?
I can tell you for my presentation portion of it, I shared that resource, that page, nyc.gov/DOB Now training. And there is a training on there for owners and building managers, and it goes over all of the content that I just presented. So if you're looking for that specific information right now, without the recording for this, you can go to that training page and look for the owners and managers. There's a video of it, and there's also the slides. So if you wanted to click on some of the links and whatever, that's already posted on our website.
Got it. Number two, you know, sometimes, I mean, DOB Now is you need a lot of time to learn the system. There's so much things going on. But if someone, for example, bought a property that had an open permit and you're a new property owner, what's like the procedure? I mean, I've been calling DOB, trying to get information. How do I, do I have to, anyway, to cancel that permit? I mean, no work is being done or has been done, but what's like the process of that?
If you could put your information in the chat about what it is you're trying to do, I will try to get somebody to give you some assistance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I see that Shamanda joined, Ben, so if you wanted to.
Yeah, Shamanda, do you want to share your slides, or do you want me to make you a host, or do you want me to share what I have?
I will share because, of course, I have a few little updates. So
Right.
I will share.
Making you a co-host as we speak.
Okay.
You should be a co-host now.
All right. So the first thing I'd like to say to everybody before I jump into my presentation is I like to put out the technology disclaimer, right? Because the reality is sharing screens and all that good stuff sometimes goes wrong. I'm very happy that, you know, we're all here and we're all like city employees, so you completely understand it. So I am going to try to share my PowerPoint. Just give me one moment. Start screen share. Whew. And I just need you guys to confirm that you can see.
We can.
Oh, this is great. So first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Shamanda Graham, and I'm the Executive Director of the Administrative Enforcement Unit here at the DOB. I am here today, you know, my presentation is not going to be as educational. I'm here today to introduce all of the parties on today's call to our very brand new initiative to get summonses corrected. We are calling it GSC. So it's really just an education campaign and an outreach initiative to increase the rate of correction for open summonses. So we'll just jump right in.
We have about 10 minutes, Shamanda.
Don't worry about it. This will be fast. So first and foremost, AAU's mission is to successfully prosecute and process summonses that are returnable to the Oath Hearings Division. Some of the history on this is we've been issuing oath summons as a major enforcement tool since the 1980s. From then to now, there's over 1 million summonses have been issued. And believe it or not, 82% have been corrected, almost 83%. but 17% remain uncorrected, 17.3, 39% of those are immediately hazardous. So we took a look at summonses opened by community board. And what we found is there are certain community boards with more summonses open than others. And as such, we thought it would, someone's phone is going, can you please mute it? And as such, we thought it a good idea to connect with the community boards to have a targeted effort to increase the number of summonses that are corrected. So the slide that you see before you are the top 5 community boards with open summonses. Notice we have Queens here twice, we have Brooklyn here 3 times. So these summonses have been broken down by class. This is just to give you a snapshot of the magnitude of the number of summonses that are open. Because when you hear the number 17%, it seems like a low number. But when you look at the total summonses open, you realize that there are a lot of summonses open out there. That means that the department does not have compliance, which means public safety is at risk. So that's what brings me here today. With an emphasis on summonses issued for working without a permit, the goal of GSC is to successfully collaborate both internally and externally in order to increase the number of summonses that are corrected. Internally, we have already done a number of things. My unit is available at buildings after hours. If you haven't heard about it, we'll share the info for it. We participated in DOB in your community, where we went into different boroughs. Each borough, except for Manhattan, we had to cancel for weather purposes, but we assisted customers one-on-one with uploading certificates of correction to resolve their summonses. We sent out postcard reminder notices. A lot of you may have gotten phone calls regarding those reminder notices. We took no prisoners when we sent those out. We actually sent out 51,000 postcards to property owners with open summonses. While we did limit it to 1 to 4 family homeowners, we did send it to any person with any open summonses. So in some cases, we captured summonses that were more than 30 years old. But that was like a reminder. We were really trying to wake up the community, wake up the respondents, because oftentimes they don't realize that the summons will remain open in the department records until someone certifies it as corrected. We've already done enhancements to our websites, and we're currently actively working on updating our systems to streamline the process. We have done opportunity-based outreach efforts where we've emailed property owners or job filers to sort of remind them that, hey, there's an open summons on this property. And we've started some interagency collaborations. We're having conversations with finance. We're having this meeting today. We've had conversations with Oath. In our current efforts, we have found some challenges. One of the first challenges is the education of the public. Oftentimes, the public believes that if they paid for a summons, it should be resolved. But you guys all know that is far from the truth as it relates to a DOB Oath summons. Any summons issued by DOB returnable to Oath, you have to go one step further and certify it as corrected. So one of our major challenges is making sure that people understand that, and that's what we're trying to address with GSC. We also have issues with staffing resources because, and we noticed it when we mailed out the 51,000 postcards. We mailed all those postcards out and we wanted to wake up the public. We did wake up the public because many people reached out and they wanted help on the certificate of correction process from start to finish. But what we found is we literally had to stop reviewing certificates of correction in order to walk them through the process. So while it was helpful and it woke them up, it did slow down our efforts because we didn't have staff members to do both. We also have issues with folks who don't have technology proficiencies. I'm very, very glad that Jody Kaplan is here. She runs our digital support team. So we've been having issues with customers who just don't know how to use computers. And no matter how much training we provide, how many PowerPoints we provide, you know, there are just folks who are just not computer proficient, and we don't want that to be the barrier to certifying correction. So one of the reasons why I'm here today is because I wanted to hear from you all about some challenges or some issues that maybe your constituents have brought to you regarding the oath summons. And then I wanted to talk about how we think that we can collaborate with you to help people to get what I want to call across the finish line. So I am almost done. I know I didn't have a lot of time, but before I move on, is there anyone here who would like to share a challenge that your community board has been presented with as it relates to resolving an oath summons? I see a hand raised. I don't know how this works. Susan?
If anybody wants to speak up about this, we have one question from the last session we want to get to, but.
Okay.
No, my question was from the previous, not from this. Thank you.
Give us 1
Okay.
minute and we'll see if anybody can respond to Shonda's request. To speak up, I think, would be the best.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We are short of time, and it's okay, because the purpose of me being here today is to kick off what we would like to do, right? I really, really need the buy-in of the community boards. I need the buy-in of interagency partners and also other city agencies, because this effort is so large, we cannot do it alone. So if you're wondering how you can help, what I am seeking to do is to tap in to any issues that are being presented to the community boards. We are going to use the data that we have to have focused conversations with specific community boards. So as we do that, and as we roll through each community board, we're going to sort of try to focus on the issues that are specific to that board. But in order for that to happen, we need the open line of communication. So our community engagement team will be reaching out to specific community boards to let them know that AAU is available and what we can bring to the table, whether it's that we come into your offices, we bring a team of people on a set day, and we assist people in certifying correction, or if we have workshops and trainings in your neighborhoods, we're focusing on libraries because they have rooms. That way, if a person doesn't have a computer, they can be in the library where computers are available. We would like to tap into the Home Depots and the places where people go to get their materials, to fix violating conditions. And most of all, we're really asking for everyone to be a steward of compliance. And what that means to us is that if people reach out and they're trying to resolve an open summons on their property, we want you to remember that AAU and the Department of Building has this GSC effort where we can have a focused, a concentrated approach to whether it's your community board or your constituents. Again, today's meeting is just a kickoff, right? So some helpful things to know. If you want it to be a steward for compliance, the most important thing to know is that paying the DOB penalty is not enough. Oftentimes people pay the DOB penalty, meaning the oath imposed penalty, because they went to a hearing and they presented all of these documents to the judge and a penalty was imposed. They make that payment and they think it has all gone away. But that is far from the truth. For DOB, a certificate of correction must be submitted. And we understand that there are a lot of people who thought that a certificate of correction was already submitted, or that when they showed the courts these documents, the courts sent those documents to DOB, or in the alternative, when they paid their summons, that the summons would resolve in the record. So we understand that that is far from the truth. And today I am here basically asking for your help when our community engagement team reaches out. I want you to be prepared that we are coming to your communities. We would love to work with you, and we are open to any suggestions that you have as it relates to getting more summonses corrected, getting more compliance across the city, and which would thereby increase public safety. So the last slide is just our contact information. If you would like to take a screenshot, I shared the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint cannot be shared with the public, but you can certainly share it internally. Our contact information, this particular slide that's up right now, can be shared with anyone that you run into that needs help. I can also follow up with some helpful links that are specific to the oath summons. I will do that. And then that can be shared across the community boards. But most importantly, I hope that you guys are very, very eager to work with us to get public safety to an all-time high. We want to increase compliance across the city of New York, and we cannot do that without your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
I know Susan said she had to go, but are you here still to ask your question?
I don't have a question, but I do have one comment on this. I am delighted to hear about this program. It is just what we needed. It's very frustrating when we make a complaint to DOB. DOB issues a summons and then nothing happens. So this program, I'm just very happy to hear. I also want to mention sometimes they pay the summons and don't do anything else because it's cheaper to pay than to fix, which happens in in all areas. But I am still, my hand is up for a question after this.
Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing, but we're here to answer questions until the end of the session.
We have officially 4 more minutes, so I see Teresa. I think you just raised your hand, or we can.
I just raised my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. I'm from CB9 Brooklyn, by the way. So we've got a lot of sites, development sites, building sites going up around us. There's a site in particular, and I'm just, looking at the BIS, and they have, every day I go by there on my way to the park, and I don't have the energy to report everything that's going on there. And I see right now they have 8 outstanding oath ECB violations, 24 complaints, 1 open, and it's extremely challenging to see what's happening at this particular site, and that the DOB comes, the fire department comes twice and shuts it down, but nothing really changes so much. They've done a little bit of things like they're connecting the hose to the fire hydrant across the street, flooding the street with ice, throwing the hose so the drain can't go. The scaffolding is blowing, falling, breaking, bending. It's so dangerous. There is so much that goes on there on a regular basis that's unsafe. And oftentimes the DOB comes and they're just like, oh, okay. And then the thing, whatever is happening, continues. And they're working after hours. I mean, I think just about they're dumping.
Yeah, we only have a minute long. Or
Yeah,
everything
that's
so
happening.
I understand. I can answer very, very quickly. I think this goes right back to the GSC campaign, because oftentimes there's a misunderstanding at what the DOB can and cannot do. We have enforcement tools where we can write summonses, and we all know, you've seen it, you just described it. We can write the summonses until we're blue in the face. We are different than other agencies where we are unable to come in and fix it and back charge the owner. right? HPD can do that. DOT can fix your sidewalk and do that, but the DOB cannot come in and fix your property and then back charge you. So our only tool is to write the summonses. But as you said, we can write summons after summons after summons. We could get no correction. You know, the way I see it, a person who doesn't pay their parking tickets or doesn't fix their summonses, they're not going to wake up one day and start fixing it unless we do something different. The GSC effort is meant to shake up the community, to educate them on the benefits of compliance. So unfortunately, there's no easy answer, but I will always give the answer, which is the true answer. The summons is our tool, and we really can't do much more.
It's nice to hear that. Susan, do you want to get your question in?
Yes, thank you. First, I want to thank CEC for doing this and DOB for a very effective and good presentation. I think community boards have been asking that all training videos be posted. Not all of us can always be on at the one time, and we would like to make it a policy that training should be posted. My question for DOB is going back to our goal for all of us of transparency. There have been changes recently, and I would like to know where in DOB rules and regulations I can find, for example, if I report non-compliance on an issue and DOB audits it and finds it as non-compliant, I can no longer find out what is happening, what they're telling the applicant, that the building owner. So I would like to know where I can find, just to make it easier for all of us, with these kind of rules and regulations about what we can and can't know. Where do I find all that information?
I think I would need to know more about what you're saying you used to be able to see and now you can't.
Sure. So I'll give you an example. If a building owner is non-compliant, like property's been vacant for over 2 years, and a commercial grandfathered, and he's now fixing, got permission to renovate, rent to a new commercial, which at the time is still illegal. And I ask for DOB to issue a violation. DOB audits and find what I said is correct, but I'm not allowed to know what they're telling the applicant to do, how to rectify the situation. So this is a rule, it's a regulation. Where do I find out where we can know information and where community boards and city agencies can no longer have this kind of information?
I'd have to check with a technical person to get that information, but I am just a little confused about, were you able to see this information somewhere and now you're looking for the details of an audit? And
right.
I don't believe that the details of an audit were ever public.
DOB always gave me, if I made a complaint, DOB always gave me the information, and now we don't. And I'm not contesting that. I just want to know where these rules and regulations in general are written so that we know this information. So I won't send 20 emails to DOB. I will just know what can and can't be released.
I think we're going to have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
We are officially 3 minutes over, but thank you for your time. We will share all the contact information with everybody and the questions on how to follow up. And it is our policy also to share the videos, Susan. So look for that soon. But I want to thank everybody for coming. We are doing this one again on the 31st, this Thursday, which I put the link to registering for if you want to share. This Thursday evening, we're doing housing discrimination and harassment again. And then we also have this coming, we have intro to home ownership coming up again. You can find the date on the link that I shared. We have community conflict resolution workshops and language access workshops, and a few others still to announce coming up. So check that that link, which I just put one more time. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming. Enjoy the rest. Thank you, DOB. It was very informative, and it was really great. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully we'll see more of you at future workshops.
You are very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.